Hey guys, don't forget Hackamania is coming up May 9th through the 11th in Las Vegas, and I will be there live with Who Are These Podcasts. I can't wait, and I hope to see all of you guys there. Oh, plus, if you use my promo code Kaylee, Cayley, you can get 10% off your tickets. Can't beat that. See y'all there. What's up, Internet? Welcome to Once Over. I'm Kaylee, and this is Tony from Hack the Movies, and today we're going to be giving the Once Over to Blues Brothers 2000. There will be spoilers.
Give it a good once-over.
Giving us the once-over.
Giving him the once-over.
Give me a once-over.
Down to give us the once-over.
For a routine once-over.
Once-over.
Oh, just once over lightly.
Tony, thank you so very much for coming to join me on my channel to talk about Blues Brothers 2000, which of course came out in 1998, which is nonsense to me, but we will get into all of that.
Yeah.
Before we do, I would love it so much if you would tell everybody a little bit about yourself and where people can find you.
Okay, well, I'm Tony from Hack the Movies. You can find me on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts as Hack the Movies. Review movies new and old. You've been in a bunch of videos. You were in my most watched episode of last year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I want to say, since I turned 19, I've been told at least 3 times a month that I look like John Belushi. And then late last year, I finally caved in and I did a bunch of Belushi cosplays that will be seen on my show. One of them is probably available now at the time of this airing. So yeah, that's me. Hi.
Yes.
I know I have the Blues Brothers outfit. I couldn't do it for Blues Brothers 2000. I'm sorry, Kaylee. I didn't want to get into it. Also, the Saturday Night Live costumes, they run a little small. I want everyone to know that. They run a little small because I put that thing on and as I felt really good about my weight this year, and then I put that costume on. I'm like, I'm a fat piece of shit. I'm going to kill myself. So yeah, I'm not wearing the costume for this one. My bad.
Yeah, I am a little bit upset with you about that because I'll tell you, we've done quite a few movie reviews where you had an opportunity to be in a costume and you never have been. So that's a bone that I will pick with you later, especially because I will say this right now. You and I are also filming another review that I expect you to be wearing a costume during.
Look.
If you're not wearing a rayon suit the next time I see you, I swear to God, we're going to have issues.
I'll see what I can do. I could probably mimic Will Ferrell's workout wear. I'll run upstairs and I'll find something.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. So what we're talking about today, of course, is Blues Brothers 2000.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that we are talking about this movie is because it falls into the sort of an SNL skit turned into a movie category that I have been doing lots of reviews on.
Yes, and it worked out because I knew I was going to do Blues Brothers, which is the first Saturday Night Live movie. And I'm like, well, if she's reviewing these, we got to do Blues Brothers 2000. But real quick, like just a little history of Blues Brothers, not like a deep history. It's weird because they weren't like skits. It was just a character that Belushi and Aykroyd came up with. And they would just show up and sing the songs because they were real into the blues and stuff. They would end up touring. They have albums. I listen to them all the time. Some nice gentleman sent me a big vinyl of the movie soundtrack. So it's kind of weird that like the first SNL movie isn't really like a skit. It's like the song and character stuff they did instead.
Absolutely. It didn't even originate on SNL. So they were doing the Blues Brothers well before it started appearing on SNL. They actually previously opened for Steve Martin, and that was kind of how it transitioned over to SNL, which is interesting. So they really just started out as a real life blues and soul band. Yeah. Which is great and weird, and they're very talented. So I can't even criticize them for wanting to do this fun little project. But I will say, when I was a kid, I was so confused about if the Blues Brothers were a real band or not because of all of that confusing history. I was like, is it a band? Is it a fake thing? Are they doing just a bit the entire time?
It's kind of both.
Yeah.
It's kind of both. You can like go to bluesbrothers.com and book them. I don't know who you get. I doubt it's Aykroyd.
Probably not.
They still do the Blues Brother performance at Universal Studios. I found that out a few years ago when I was down there. I'm like, oh, they're still doing this. Great. Yeah, so the answer is yes to all of them.
Yes,
yes. But yeah, I guess John Landis and them wanted to make a movie, so they were able to come up with a script. The script was way too long. This is all stuff I'll get into in my review. The script was way too long, and they had to narrow it down, and then they shot the movie too long, and then they had to narrow it down. But
And
yeah,
then
it was
still too long.
and it was still a little too long. But I loved it. I really like the Blues Brothers. I mean, unfortunately, Belushi ends up dying, so there's really not much you can do. But for some reason, in the late 90s, they were like, well, we got to bring the Blues Brothers back. And it's like, no, I don't think you have to. Actually, you really don't need to. There's absolutely no reason to.
It's your favorite thing, an extremely way too late sequel of a movie.
But yeah, you're right. They don't really redo too many gags from the original. They come up with all new gags, which aren't funny. I told you I was a little biased against way too late comedy sequels.
You love these. 18 years later, we get Blues Brothers 2000.
Lots to talk about with this one because this one's great and we love it.
This is awful.
It was not awful.
This movie was
It's a
pretty
movie
bad.
about friendship.
Yes, and this one's a little rough. It's not the roughest I've ever seen. Dumb and Dumber 2, I still will never forgive you. But they're kind of too dumb in this movie.
I thought they were the perfect amount of dumb.
No, the first movie was the perfect amount of dumb. The only good one. But this one's still
never, I will never not die on the sword of the Dumb and Dumber 2 is good.
Well, that's
But
okay.
Whatever.
Next time you're here, I'm making you do the prequel. So fuck you.
I can't wait. So why is it called Blues Brothers 2000? Do we have an answer to that?
Okay. I mean, I didn't find like an official reason, but I remember toward the late 90s, a lot of things were just calling themselves 2000 because everyone was hyped for the millennium. It was like a whole thing. So I think this just got looped into that. You're right. It is weird that it's called 2000. It's like it made more sense back then, but the title hasn't really aged well now that we're not in that time anymore.
I don't think any of it has aged well, but that again is a personal opinion that we will get into as we are talking about this movie. It was released and it had extremely negative reviews. It barely broke even in the box office. And I can't tell if the reason for that is because they decided to make a little kid be the sidekick replacing John Belushi, or if the reason for that is because of the insane zombie dance number.
Honestly, the zombie dance number, as bizarre as it is probably one of the better songs in the movie. So I kind of enjoyed it. I don't think the little kid was the problem. Honestly, it's the lack of Belushi.
Yes,
It's Belushi
absolutely.
not being in it. I mean, there are sometimes you could try to recreate something. Someone dies, you have to move on, replace them. Sometimes that works. I don't think it works here. The Blues Brothers are Belushi and Aykroyd, and the backup band, but it's Belushi and Aykroyd, and it doesn't help that almost everyone from the first one comes back except for him. I mean, obviously he can't; he's dead, and it's also very bizarre that you wouldn't just get Jim Belushi to be the new Blues Brother. That seems like the most obvious casting. Instead, they went with John Goodman.
There was a lot of talk about trying to get Jim Belushi into the movie. However, he ended up having a conflict with some sitcom that he was working on that I have never heard of, so surely that was a giant failure.
What do you think total security means?
I would say totally secure.
They'll do anything you want.
Total security. We're gonna get through this, baby.
Fact is, I got the job done. That guy's wife was cheating on me.
Yeah, with you.
So there was an attempt to do that, and instead, again, they replaced Belushi both with John Goodman and also with this kid. And I just don't think there's any combination of two humans who can replace John Belushi, and in particular, not this kid.
Yeah.
That is, again, I think John Goodman is wonderful, and I think that he did great in many places in this movie, but I have some criticisms about his performance as well, so
I just
we will
feel
get into that.
bad for him. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even hate the guy. I just feel bad. I'm like, oh man, I know you're supposed to be like the replacement, but like this isn't doing it. I don't know why they didn't go all in on what's his name, Joe Morton as the commander. His story was a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I think that would have worked a little bit better because, John Goodman is just very distracting because it's like, well, we know you're supposed to be the new Belushi, but you act nothing like him, you look nothing like him. Yeah,
So
kid
you are correct that this movie, obviously, they have to address the fact that John Belushi is no longer with us. And the movie is nice. It does open up with a screen saying that the movie is dedicated to John Belushi, to Cab Calloway, and to John Candy, which is very sweet. And the way that they then discuss Belushi's non-appearance in the film is that we are now 18 years later, and we get to see Elwood Blues in jail, getting released from all the crimes that he committed in the first film.
Well, not just the first film. He had, because, Jake just got out of jail in the first one, so he already served his time. So he had, I mean, realistically, oh God, you're being attacked.
I'm being attacked from talking about this movie.
Realistically, the end of Blues Brothers, they probably just would have been executed. But Jake had less stuff on his record. Elwood, in the beginning of that movie, the cops run his name through the thing, and he has so much shit. So he was obviously going to be in there a little bit longer. So Jake must have gotten out, I assumed.
Yes.
A little bit earlier. But it is funny that Frank Oz, cameo from Frank Oz, who was the guy who gave Jake his stuff back from the evidence or whatever, he made his way up to warden. He's prison warden now.
Yeah. John Landis loves bringing in Frank Oz, and I love seeing Frank Oz. So that's always exciting, and that was an exciting moment for me. Yeah. But of course, as Elwood is getting out, he's waiting for Jake to come and pick him up. And it is just this extremely long, drawn out scene that is supposed to be emotional. I mean, it's very somber. It's very quiet. Yeah. Elwood is looking down when he's finding out that Jake isn't coming to get him, which is a really weird way to start out a comedy movie.
Yeah. I mean,
get
it was a little funny that he keeps waiting for the cars.
Yeah.
And he keeps getting excited that he stops. But you're right, it doesn't lead up to a joke. It leads up to a sad moment. I'm like, oh, that's a bummer.
Well, but not only that, we all know that Jake isn't coming because we all know that Belushi is dead. So it doesn't, as we're watching this scene, we're just more and more sad that we are about to get a Blues Brothers movie without Belushi in it. And I felt like it was a really risky way to start off this comedy film. And I think that it set me up for not laughing at a lot of jokes that I might have potentially found funny otherwise.
Yeah. Well, I had forgotten, because this might shock you, but I only watched this once many years ago. But I had forgotten that, he doesn't know Jake is dead. I went into this watch through. I was like, oh, he must have just assumed that he's dead. He's probably waiting for one of the band members. So when I heard him say oh yeah, did you not tell him about Jake? I'm like, oh, that's how we're starting this. I'm like, the little memoriam thing in the beginning was enough. I don't think we needed this. I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
I think that we could have started out just in the movie Elwood trying to get the band back together, which effectively is what the movie is about.
Is the movie about getting the band back together, Kaylee?
I don't know.
Are there any other movies about getting the Blues Brothers band back together? Are they called the Blues Brothers? Sorry. That is my main issue. Dan Aykroyd, he Ghostbuster 2'd it, where it's we're just going to kind of do the same thing again, but the jokes aren't going to work as well, and it's not going to be as funny. And also, there's not enough people weeding out my dumb ideas, so I'm going to be inside a car at one point, built into the car, and there's going to be ghosts and zombies.
So there was a lot of talk. Apparently, the original pitch that Landis and Aykroyd did to the studio was that they wanted to create something. They wanted to create a movie where they were going to be trying to get money for the orphanage. They were going to try to resurrect the orphanage from the original movie where the Blues Brothers were growing up. And what the studio did was the studio said, no, you can't do that. Instead, what we want to do is we want to make a more kid-friendly movie where we have some supernatural elements because it'll appeal more to kids and that will make it a bigger box office success. And both Landis and Aykroyd have said that that was ultimately the failure of the film, was that the plot just is exactly, it's a rehashing of the first movie. You mentioned this already. The cast is almost entirely revived from the first film, with the exception of anybody who died, and also with the exception of Ray Charles, who had too high of a salary ask, and so they couldn't get him to come.
Or Carrie Fisher, because she's kind of tied to the Jake character, and it doesn't make sense without her.
It doesn't make sense. Yes,
That could have been a joke, by the way, where it's like, hey, Carrie Fisher, she got him in the end. She finally took him out.
That would have been really good.
Yeah,
you
would
should
have
have
been
wrote for this movie.
I should have. Yeah, but the weird supernatural stuff, Dan Aykroyd's going to do that anyway. There was a thing in the script in like the first movie where like they parked the Bluesmobile near an electrical box, and that was going to justify on how it's supercharged. It could do all this stuff. And rightfully someone went, who the fuck cares, and cut that out of the script. So I feel like when they were like, put some supernatural stuff, Dan Aykroyd was like, oh, I guess if I have to. And then he's like, zombies, they're zombies.
It's so stupid. I really.
So stupid.
Oh my God. Okay, so I think that we can both agree we had a hard time with this movie. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of pick it apart without diving too much into the plot, though, again, we've already basically described the plot.
Well, real quick, just so we don't miss anything. Can I read the back of the...
Oh, I would love that.
My 2-pack. Oh, lucky me. I could watch both versions of the first one, so I can get a pretty good movie and then a drawn-out okay movie, and then I can follow it up with a really bad rehash. But here we go. Blues Brothers 2000. The Blues are back. Not all of them. In this action-packed comedy hit... No. Blues Brothers 2000, starring Dan Aykroyd and John Goodman, with special appearances by music legends B.B. King, Aretha Franklin, James Brown, Johnny Lang, Blues Traveler, and Eric Clapton. 18 years after the brothers' original mission from God, Elwood Blues, Aykroyd gets out of prison and discovers that much has changed in the time since he's been away. His partner Jake is gone, and Elwood soon realizes that he must embark on a whole new mission.
We're on a mission from God.
To reassemble the old band and help a soulful bartender, Goodman, compete at Queen Moset's, Erykah Badu, Battle of the Bands, and set a wayward orphan on the path to redemption. Is that what he's doing with the orphan? I didn't know that's what...
That's not how I would interpret that at all. So let's talk about his new band. So Elwood, again, he wants to put a band back together, and you're exactly right. There is this orphan. The orphan comes from Mother Mary's orphanage.
Yeah, who seems to have gotten a promotion. She's like in a nice place now. The orphanage closed. Yeah. But you're right, it's hitting the same beats. He gets out of jail. He goes to the mother. He gets a new mission. But yeah, she wants him to take this Buster under his wing.
Yes, she wants him to mentor Buster. Buster is 10 years old, and so naturally, Elwood, I mean, he kind of resists at first, but eventually Buster is just in the band, which makes no sense. Like, if I wouldn't do a lot of things with this 10-year-old that they were doing. They'd take him to a strip club at one point.
Oh, yeah, they just walk into a strip club.
I wouldn't put a 10-year-old in my band.
Yeah.
It struck me as very bizarre. Very, very bizarre. So then Elwood goes to try to recruit a police commander, Cab Chamberlain, who is played by Joe Morton.
Now, what exactly is the nature of your visit here, Mr. Blues?
Well, it's like this, see.
Who is Cab Calloway's character's son from the first film, and that's...
Yes.
Cab Calloway's character, whose name I'm blanking on, was it Curtis?
Curtis.
Yes. He gave them, the brothers, their love of the blues. So since he grew up there, he thinks this guy is like a stepbrother to him. But this guy has no idea.
I used to be in a band.
Yes.
Called the Blues Brothers.
So?
He doesn't know idea who his dad is or anything. It was like kept secret.
Yeah, and that scene goes on way too long, in my opinion. This is all set up that Cab is the illegitimate brother of Elwood.
And you are our long-lost brother.
It doesn't matter at all. This is so bothersome to me because what Elwood is so attached to is, oh, I have a biological brother. But then the rest of the entire movie rests on the fact that we're all brothers here.
We're all brothers now, right?
Right.
So if you can all be brothers, regardless of if you're biological brothers or not, then why, like, was that the moral of the movie? Is that?
I don't even think Jake was his biological brother. They grew up in the orphanage. I think they picked the last name Blues. So yeah. And again, it's another, like, let's just do the same thing but make it a little different. So it's like, remember the cops that were chasing him in the first movie? Well, what if that black cop was actually a Blues brother? So we changed it a little. So it's not the exact same thing.
Yeah,
Spoiler.
but it is.
It's pretty much the exact same thing.
It's exactly the same thing. So when we're first getting introduced to Cab, I was like taking notes vigorously as I was watching this movie because so much is happening and yet so little is happening all at the same time. And the note that I wrote down about Cab is the first time that we meet him, we are in his office at the police station.
Yeah.
And he has a picture behind him of Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is going to be funny in some way, right? Like that was like what I wrote down as like a funny joke. And then nothing happened. And the only reason that I can think that that was so predominantly featured is because Cab Calloway's character in the first one, Curtis, had pictures of Malcolm X, John F. Kennedy, and Robert F. Kennedy in the background. And I was like, wait, so is that the joke?
I guess so.
That's horrible. That's an awful joke.
That's the only thing I can think of.
This entire thing is so nonsensical. So the character of Cab Chamberlain, he starts out chasing the Blues Brothers.
I want a statewide felony theft warrant put out on Elwood Blues. I want this guy now.
And then he eventually has a godly experience, which leads him to join the band.
Talking about moving things around. Instead of going to the nun, meeting Cab, and then going to, what's-his-face's church. Why am I blanking on his name? It's like the most famous guy of all time. James Brown's church.
James Brown.
Yeah. They moved that to later in the movie. Yes. And then the moment of Jake getting hit with the light of God and dancing and realizing they need to put the band back together, they changed it a little bit where this cop gets hit with the light and then flies into the air and transforms into a Blues Brother and descends back down. Okay, so the first one was cartoony in parts. John Landis comedies can get cartoony in parts, but usually they get more cartoony as the movie goes on. Like the end of Blues Brothers is insanity. Yeah. There's like military everywhere. A car does a backflip and somehow gets unrealistically high. Animal House, friggin' at the end, Kevin Bacon is like a pancake on the ground being stomped on. They usually build up to the more cartoony stuff. This one, it's a little too cartoony. It's too cartoon. Like a man John Belushi getting hit with light and doing a million backflips and dancing, fine. A guy literally flying in the air, I'm like, I don't know, that's a little too much for me.
I understand. I totally, absolutely, completely, positively understand.
But they wanted to play the special effects, I guess.
There were a couple of other really cartoony parts that bothered me a lot. On the other hand, I kind of enjoyed some of them. So one of the ones that stands out for me as being the most cartoony is that at one point the Blues Brothers encounter a white power militia group led by Daryl Hammond, nonetheless.
Yes, which is a replacement for the Illinois Nazis.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. It's, again, beat for beat, this movie. And what we have here is there is a boat that is, it's a very comical scene. There's a boat strapped to a car and it's full of explosives and all the things are happening. And the boat flies up in the air and then it comes down and very like Wile E. Coyote sort of style comes down and smashes into him. Uh-oh. And I just imagine the sound, like the plummeting sound, like the pew sort of noise. And I was like, that's like really absurd.
Yeah, I actually didn't mind the wide shot of them driving and the explosion going on in the back.
Did you hear something?
Nope. And I thought for a minute, I was like, oh, that's a funny like twist because you think these guys are going to be the new Nazis, but then they blow up. Oh, that's funny. But then they just come back later, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. How did they come back?
We forgot, like, the original movie shows you that the Nazis are hunting them. It always keeps you updated on what everyone hunting them is doing. This one, it'll be like, yeah, those guys will come back later. It's like, oh, will they? Okay. Well, I'll take your word for it, I guess.
So we do have lots of people hunting the Blues Brothers, but before we get into the people hunting the Blues Brothers, we do have a couple more band members to get into.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and find out all about Mighty Mac, played by John Goodman. So Elwood and Buster go to Willie's strip club. Willie, of course, is the former drummer of the Blues Brothers.
Yes.
And they meet Mac, who is a bartender at the strip club.
Real dweeby bartender.
A good old dweeby bartender. And I will say, I love John Goodman. I don't think that his potential was used in this movie.
No, he does like nothing.
The movie needed him, even though he does nothing.
I guess. He's not. He doesn't feel like a character. He just feels like he's there.
Yeah.
Like they're like, don't do. Why wouldn't you use John Goodman to his full potential? Like, I don't get it.
So do you think that some of that might have actually been sabotage of saying, like self-sabotage of saying, like, I can't live up to Belushi, so I'm not even going to try?
Yeah, but then it's like, well, then put your own thing on it. I'm like,
then don't try.
Like, if you watch the Blues Brothers, the original movie, it's not just them two. The whole band, they all have different personalities, even though they don't get as much screen time. It's like, you could have had your own personality. All the other ones do. But it just felt like he was, once he goes Blues Brothers mode, he's like afraid to take any chances. So he's just doing whatever Aykroyd does, I guess.
Sure.
I don't know. It was a weird decision. It did not pay off.
I think it did not pay off as accurate, but for me, I still thought that he was needed. I can't think of anybody else who I would have wanted to play that role. I don't necessarily know that I think that role was... I don't know that I think that this movie was needed. Nevertheless,
no,
that role
it actually
wasn't.
It actually was not needed.
So you mentioned something interesting. You said in the first movie, in the original movie, everybody kind of has a little bit of their personality. The way that I have characterized the rest of the band members is, well, we spend a lot of time in the film getting back Matt Murphy, Murphy Dunn.
Matt Murphy is my favorite.
Yeah,
he's my favorite
great.
in the first one with Aretha Franklin. I love him in this one. He's my favorite Blues Brother. Upon these rewatches, like, nah, Matt's the man. I love him.
Yeah. And an extremely talented musician as well. And then there's seemingly 15 other people that all join up with the band. So they spend like the entire first 2/3 of this very long movie just getting the band back together and driving around to all of these different places, which is long. And I get it. We need the band.
Which is what happens in the original one. But it's like, all right, well, maybe do it for like a couple of them. It was funny that like a bunch of them happened to be working at the news station. I'm like, I would have made it where like they all were there. Yeah. You know what? You know what movie did it really well? Muppets 2011. Did you see that one?
I did see that one.
When they get like a couple of them back together and then it's like it skips ahead, they're all back, and then what is it, Rolf? He's like, what about my backstory? I thought it was pretty good, and they just woke him up from a nap. Like, that's good.
Yeah.
Like one or two, and then it's like, oh yeah, they all happen to be in the same place and they were down for it. I don't think we needed to go through every single one again.
It was really, really long-winded. And again, so I will be honest, I'm actually not a huge fan of the original Blues Brothers movie. And I know I am excited about watching your review of that. And I will probably eventually review it since it is an SNL skit turned into a movie.
Yeah.
But I just, as a spoiler, I am not a huge fan of the original. What makes 2000 so much worse is that it's just the original, but worse and not funny. At least the original is funny. Yeah. And I'm laughing and I'm having fun watching people having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And this just does not have that charm.
It's got like two moments where like the music like works and it's fun, and outside of that it's just like, oh, that was amusing, I guess. The most you get out of this comedy wise is that's it.
Yeah.
That's all you can get out of it is
Again, I wrote down Martin Luther King Jr. picture as a possible joke. Like, that is the level of jokes that are happening in this movie. So before we get into the music, because again, this is the Blues Brothers, the music is a hugely important part to this film. Before we get into the music, we got to talk about all the bad guys, all the people who are hunting the Blues Brothers, because again, they are on the run, they are performing songs, they are trying to escape all of these people. So first we have Mother Mary. So Mother Mary's not really a bad guy. I mean, she's like a stern ass bitch.
Yeah,
but
she still has the ruler. She still has the ruler.
She's still got that ruler.
Young man.
She is chasing after Elwood because she believes that he has kidnapped Buster. But
you know what? This one's on her. Why would she entrust a kid with him? Like, she should know better.
Yeah, why would she want him to be a mentor is a great question. And then also, she, like, sends him away with Elwood. And I understand that then Elwood disappears, and so the kid is sort of kidnapped. But, like, she literally was like, hey, kid, go with this old man. So it's not a kidnapping, right?
I don't think he was supposed to, like, go out of state or, like, out of town.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, that might be true.
Also, the nuns call her out. They're like, you probably should have called the cops a while ago. You just let this man out of prison just take this orphan child away. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's crazy. And then the next group that we have that are chasing the Blues Brothers, of course, is the Russian Mafia, because why wouldn't they be?
Everyone, please leave! No!
Yeah, because Willie pays them protection money. They, like, get the guys drunk and beat them up, and the mob, like, burns down the building, and that's why Willie and Mac joined the band, because they don't have a goddamn establishment anymore. But yeah, the Russian Mafia is chasing them for that.
Yes.
Yes. And again, they are the only ones that we occasionally check. Mother Mary, kind of, but, like, they're, like, the big bad in the movie, but, like,
yes,
they're also just the least interesting. I don't know.
Будь спокоен. Ты будешь хлебать водку ихними черепами.
They're really boring. Like, Russian Mafia, you can do so much with that, and they do nothing with it whatsoever. It's actually kind of crazy how little character these characters have. So I would argue actually that the big bad guy in the film is the Chicago Police Department. I would say more so than the Mafia.
Until, like, midway through when what's his face gets transformed, and then they're just kind of like there. Yeah.
So the whole reason that the cops are chasing after Elwood is because Cab has a vendetta against him.
Yes. Because they stole his wallet. They stole his wallet and took $500. So they're upset because Buster stole their wallet so they can get $500 to buy the old Bluesmobile again. They couldn't just get a new Bluesmobile. It had to be you know what? To be fair, you see the Bluesmobile at Universal Studios and that one restaurant in Florida. So I guess they kind of had to bring that car back.
I think the Bluesmobile is as important as the dog car and Dumb and Dumber and Dumb and Dumber 2. It is a character in and of itself, and we need to bring it back, and it needs to have its character. And I actually do think that the Bluesmobile does a great job in this movie. It gets camouflaged at one point, so they paint it all.
Paint,
It's temporary camouflage. That's all.
It's very like, I think that they brought it back, and they brought it back in a good way, and I think that was necessary. I think that if they hadn't done that, there would have been outcries about how horrible that was.
No one saw this movie. What would they cry about? Someone would have been like, they didn't bring the Bluesmobile back, and someone else would have been like, you watched that movie? Why did you see that movie?
All right. You might be right about that.
In a movie where they can't bring John Belushi back, I don't think people were like, well, I hope the car comes back at least.
All right, so the next group that is also chasing after the Blues Brothers, of course, is this white power militia group that we already kind of alluded to, that is led by Daryl Hammond.
Like I said, they don't really chase them. You think they died, and then they're just at the Battle of the Bands. That's it.
I was I was like, are they immortal? Should I be really worried?
They should have done the cartoony thing where they have, like, burn marks on their face after the bombing, like a Looney Tunes thing, but they didn't.
Yeah, so. No, they didn't. They didn't lean hard enough into the Looney Tunes gag with the Confederacy weirdos.
Yeah.
But I did like that was Daryl Hammond. That made me happy.
Yeah,
don't
I
know
like
why.
Daryl Hammond.
I thought, I do too.
Yeah.
But again, he was like a nothing character. Like everybody's
Yeah.
a nothing character. Okay, so we can't talk about the Blues Brothers without talking about all of the song and dance numbers because this is a musical comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Yes.
you focus on the comedy.
Yes.
It's a musical. I would argue that this is just a musical, not a musical.
The original
comedy.
is a musical as well.
Yes, it is true. The first song that we get to see is sung by Just Elwood, and he does the song Cheaper to Keep Her, which is a fine rendition of that song. I like it actually very much. My cat is being so loud right
I was
now.
about
Can
to
you
say,
hear
I'm
it?
like, is someone like in the back like cooking or something?
He's just playing with a bag. Will you stop playing with that bag, please? Nope, will not. Okay, so now he's here to attack my feet, so I should be
Okay,
able to-
good.
Let me continue with what I was saying.
Yes.
So he does Cheaper to Keep Her, and I think that he does a great rendition of this song. It has like strippers are choreographing a dance to it, and Aykroyd is great, but it just doesn't have the same pizzazz as having a duo perform a song.
Yeah.
And so again, this is the first song that we are seeing in this musical comedy. And to me, it felt a little bit flat. I don't know. What did you think?
Yeah, it didn't do it for me. You know what's funny? Both movies, like, they don't really feel like musicals until Aretha Franklin comes. Because in both movies, all the songs and stuff that are happening are at places where you would hear singing and songs. So was it the first one? It was the church.
I'm sorry. When do you go to strip clubs and see Aykroyd singing a song, singing Cheaper to Keep Her, while strippers do choreographed dances? What strip clubs are you going to,
Maybe not a strip
sir?
club, but a bar you would hear live music. Like, I'm sure there's a strip club that does live music. I'm sure it exists. That would be hilarious, actually. But the point is, like, both movies, like, songs are happening where people would be singing, and then Aretha Franklin shows up, and then it feels like a musical where people are dancing and singing where they shouldn't be. It's just funny that it happens in both movies at the same point.
That's actually a really interesting point.
Yeah.
Again, I would argue about the strip club being a reasonable place for this to be happening, but I see your point, and I do think that you're on to something there.
Yeah.
And the second song that we get to see is actually also in the strip club. This one is performed by Mac, John Goodman's character, and he's dancing like crazy, and he's performing Looking for a Fox, while, again, the strippers are doing this choreographed dance. But this time, I like their choreography enough that I am 100% going to steal that choreography for Isotope's numbers. I loved their dance for this. They're doing, like, the chicken wing thing for a little while, so is John Goodman.
By the way, I've never seen a stripper, like, do a choreographed dance before.
Never. It's insanity. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But I did like that song. And again, this is kind of, even though, again, it's a little bit tame, I think that this is kind of John Goodman's standout moment in the film. He's performing, he's being his goofy self, and he succeeds at doing those things.
Yeah. Yeah, he's good, and like that's how he realizes, like, oh, he should be in the band. Like, he's doing it as a favor, and he's like, oh, he can sing, because like Dan Aykroyd, he isn't like really like this. There's a few songs where he'll lead, but he's usually like the backup vocal. He's not like the lead. Belushi was the lead, so maybe that's why they needed him, because they need a new lead singer. But then they get Joe Morton anyway, who I feel like sings more. I don't know. It could have just been Joe Morton. I don't think we need a Goodman at all. But anyway, keep going.
So that is when we then finally get into the Aretha Franklin number, which I agree with you. This is where it kind of starts to feel more like a musical.
Yeah.
This occurs when they are trying to recruit Matt Murphy, who is a guitar player, and Lou Marini, who plays sax, and they now own a car dealership. And so his wife, Aretha Franklin, performs the song Respect after telling Matt Murphy that he needs to respect her.
And you treat me with respect at all times.
I do, baby.
Well, previously it was telling him that he better think, and then he leaves.
Yes.
But he still stayed with her. But I like that it leads up to her just being like, just go. And I'm like, what the fuck was the whole song and dance about?
For crying out loud. If this is what you're going to be like to live with, Go ahead.
So I completely agree. It was meaningless, as are many things in this film. I loved the Ridgway sisters as the backup dancers and singers. I thought that they did an absolutely incredible job. But for me, I am going to be honest, and I might take some flack for this. Aretha Franklin was very yawn in this performance to me.
I mean, she was getting up there in years. I mean,
she did like a little hop skip in the Respect song that it just didn't I didn't enjoy it as much. And the whole song and dance number, this might not even be Aretha's fault, but rather just the performance of the song. While she's singing, the energy felt super low. So the boys, we have Elwood, Buster, and Mac, they're all dancing a little, but really it's more of like a little shuffle walk sort of thing that they're doing.
Well, they're not like great dancers. And that's the problem. That's actually my problem with Buster, because he is like a really good dancer. And I'm like, well, no, it was kind of funny in like the first movie with Aretha Franklin singing, like Belushi just gets up and is like, I know he does backflips and stuff, but like they're like goofy dancers. They either dance barely, they just walk back and forth, or they do something goofy. Here they like try to make them dance like a little bit better, and this Buster kid just throws it all off.
This scene was really hard for me to watch because there are so many cuts in it, and it was so evident that none of them could dance, but they were trying to make them do more choreography than any of them could. Do. And so we have like a little solo number from Buster where he gets up on the counter and dances, and he's pretty good. But again, I don't need him to be good. I need to be laughing at this comedy musical.
I mean, that's actually one of my issues with the director's cut of the first one. Like, it just lets the songs play out more, which is fine if you like those songs. But it's like, all right, let's get back into the comedy. Yeah, like music's fine. Let's get back into the comedy. Yeah.
And they make, I don't remember this happening in the original, but they make Lou Marini, the saxophonist, they make him dance too.
Oh, and yeah. No, he does that in the original.
Well, again, he plays the saxophone in the original, I remember, but I don't remember him like being in the lineup doing one of these.
Oh, yeah, he got on the counter in the original and was singing during the scene. I guess because this movie has to be the same as the original, he's also working with Matt Murphy again at the dealership. And he hasn't sold a car in years, which is pretty funny. They're like, I even let you hire your loser friend, even though he can't sell a damn car.
Even though he's the worst.
No, I mean, it's probably like one of the best musical numbers in the movie, just because it's probably the most famous song in the movie out of all of these. And there was like a big, like, weird Aretha Franklin revival in the 90s. People were listening to her a lot. And actually, the first movie, according to my friend Joey C., apparently saved her career. So, of course, she was going to come back for this one.
I really respected the fact that they chose
Did you RESPECT it?
I did. No, I thought that overall it was great. Even though, again, to me, it felt low energy. I felt like that was more of an editing bay issue than it was anybody else's fault. I think that it could have done with funnier choreography. The scene ends with Aretha just being like, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not as sexist this time around. I like the first one. He's like, listen, woman, I'm the man. And I'm like, I agree with 100% of what this guy's saying. He's the best blues brother. It's kind of, I mean, if you're going to repeat it, it'd be funny if she just went like, ah, shit, here we go again. Instead, she's like, okay, go. It's like, oh, well, it's not as funny.
No, it's substantially less funny, I would argue, in fact. The next song and dance number that we get is maybe one of my personal favorites, which is when they try to get Murphy Dunn to get back on keyboards.
I told him I wouldn't go without your say-so.
For the band, and he is now working at a sex hotline.
A sex hotline, and what else is it? It's like 3 things. They're like sewing shit. It's all at the same time. It's 3 different businesses at the same time. You like this song? I hated this.
Okay, so I'm not a huge fan of the song. So the song that they are singing is 6345789, which features Wilson Pickett, who originally sang this song, if I remember correctly, and Eddie Floyd. And they have the phone operators who are on the sex line, who are doing the sewing. They have them all dancing and doing backup dancing and stuff. The reason that it's my favorite song is because I think that Johnny Lang, his solo and his, like, he sings so soulfully. He does a great job playing guitar. I think he did incredible in this. And I was a big fan of his contribution to the song. All you got to do is call me on the telephone. I hate this song. I hate this song so much. But I think that it was clever. I think that it was funny. You know, you have all these phone sex operators who are like hideously ugly. Like,
I'm 18 years old, I'm blonde, I'm 36, 24, 36, and my name is Bambi.
all of them have their hair done poorly and like they're just gross looking.
It's just their voice. You don't need to know what they look like. And apparently Johnny Lang is one of them. He just it just randomly cuts to like a skinny white dude. And I'm like, oh, what? I had to look up who he was. I wasn't too familiar with him. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy?
He's super talented. I really like him. But shortly after this movie, he actually converted to like mega Christianity. So I think it's really funny that his song was the sex hotline song.
Oh,
that
good.
Makes
you know
me
what?
Smile.
Good for him. Good for him. Maybe you could take a page out of his book, Kaylee. Okay?
Nope, I cannot.
Maybe you. I'm still mad that you appropriated the Ghost of Christmas Past.
Shalom, I'm the Ghost of Christmas Past. It's my duty to remind you of the past. Tony, last year, did not do a proper Christian Christmas movie for Christmas. Edward Scissorhands? Come on, Batman Returns has more Christmas in it. At least for that one, I can properly polish my Knish to Michelle Pfeiffer in a catsuit. Let's be honest, Diane Weist ain't showing off her latkes. Remember when Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman was laying all seductively on Danny DeVito's penguin's bed and he gets all, you know, riled up? I feel ya, Cobblepot. Maybe try washing that greasy penguin onesie every so often and you'll be knee-deep in Catwoman. God, I love reminiscing about the past. What were we talking about? Who knows? Anyway, sorry for killing Jesus. Merry Christmas.
And a happy Hanukkah.
You're welcome.
Did you see Gil's segment, by the way, his Ghost of Christmas Present?
Yeah.
He didn't know what he did the angel from It's a Wonderful Life. I'm like, that's not the same thing. He didn't even ask. He's like, nah, I thought it'd be funny to just guess.
I got really confused by it, and I was like, is there a Christian thing I'm not aware of? Like... I was like, I don't know.
How does he not familiar with Christmas Carol? I'm like, I mean, come on, that's shoved down everyone's throat. But anyway,
I got very confused. I was literally like, I don't understand the Christmas stuff because I'm Jewish.
Are you not familiar with Christmas Carol?
No, I am.
Yeah.
It's not like, I feel like it's not, I mean, first of all, I'm an avid reader, so I love Dickens, and I think that that's one of Dickens' best. And so it was actually one of the... This is so unimportant. It was one of the few Christmas things.
We can stop talking about it. Sorry about that.
It's fine.
I just wanted to leave a plug that you were in my Christmas episode, so people go back and check it out. Sorry.
Yes, watch Christmas in February.
Back to this. The song's not very catchy. I don't know why they dedicated the whole musical like dance number to this particular segment of the film. It's not very interesting. It's not very funny.
No, I mean, again, it could have been funnier. For me, the standouts are I love seeing Wilson Pickett. I love seeing Eddie Floyd. Again, I thought Johnny Lang was just outstanding here. I just think that this is a relatively boring song. And of course, this is a classic of this genre of music. But it's not particularly exciting. And the way that they try to build the humor into the song is by doing the sight gags. But the sight gags aren't funny enough. Like, it would be better if I kind of felt connected to some of the hotline operators and, like, we got to see a little bit more character from one or another of them. That would have maybe made it a little bit better.
Yeah, didn't work for me.
Unfortunately, though, the next song that we get to see, do you remember the next song after that one?
Well, of course. How could I forget? Because I have the soundtrack up next to me. Is it Maybe I'm Wrong by Blues Traveler?
It sure is. It's just Blues Traveler doing a song. Totally unnecessary, in my opinion.
It's because he's blues, and he was big. It was the 90s, and they had to put him in the movie.
Yeah, I like understand all of those things.
He knows who the Blues Brothers are. He's a big fan of them, and they just, like, he sings a whole song for them, and they just ditch him. I thought that was pretty funny. Like, he's not going to join the band? Why wouldn't you put him in the band?
Tony, how long was this movie? Do you know that?
I can look that up.
Yeah.
Hold on. This movie is 123 minutes.
Yeah, that's too many minutes. And we could have shaved 3 of those minutes off by not having this Blues Traveler song in there.
Hey, look, it's less than the first movie, which is 133 minutes. Although I don't know if that's the extended cut or the theatrical cut. Wikipedia does not specify. Yeah, you probably. I mean, I get it. At that time, you would want Blues Traveler in there for this movie. But I would have worked in.
Have it be like them battling each other, like have the Blues Brothers performing with Blues Traveler again.
Yeah.
I feel like one of the reasons that I got so confused about if the Blues Brothers were a real band or not is because Blues Traveler existed and I was so inundated with them, and I feel like I used to get these two things mixed up, and so it would have been cool to see those two acts performing together.
What you could have done is been like, oh no, the bad guys locked up the band and it's just me and John Goodman and Buster and Joe Morton. They're like, where are we gonna get a band last minute? And then the bus pulls up and they're like, hey, we're Blues Traveler, I heard you need a band. It would have been real lame, but at least it would have made a little bit more sense, other than I'm the guy for Blues Traveler and I'm gonna sing a song in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the movie. And like, oh, okay. Well, thank you for doing that, I guess.
That was my least favorite song, only because I didn't need it in any way.
It's a fine song. It just didn't work in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. On the plus side, though, the next song that comes up, I enjoyed again a lot. The boys get on the road, all of them. So the band is back on the road, and they discover that their agent has booked them as a bluegrass band.
Okay. So we're combining 2 separate moments from the first film. We're combining Jake not knowing where they're going to perform, see a band that's playing at a thing called the Good Old Boys, and lying and being like, oh yeah, we're definitely a country band, and then having to come up with a country song. They do Rawhide in that one.
Yep.
And then later on in the film, they meet that agent in the sauna, and he gets them the Palace Hotel. So this one, they've combined those, where it's like, all right, now the agent is going to lie to the venue about how they do this type of music, and they're going to come up with a different song to sing. And they're going to, again, they're on the hunt. They painted the car blue, and Dan Aykroyd is inside the car, which is bizarre.
Tony, just a little known fact, that's actually how they shaved 10 minutes off of this movie from the original, is that they combined those 2 plot lines.
Oh, got it. But yeah, it's like literally like, yeah, but I just saw this. Like, and it's not as fun. I mean, I like that it's at a monster truck rally, but
I like the monster. Okay, so there are parts of this sequence that I like and parts that I really hate. I like the monster truck rally. I like that it's like a rootin' tootin' fun time performance of Ghost Riders in the sky.
With
and it's
literal
pretty epic.
Ghost Riders, those
That's the part
weird
that I don't
demonic. Those are cool looking.
The horse skeletons?
Yeah, I don't know if they work in this movie, but they were cool as shit.
Yeah, no, I wasn't a big fan of the CGI horse skeletons coming out of the clouds.
I don't think they were. They might have been like puppets on blue screen, to be honest.
Oh, really? I would believe you.
Because when I was looking at him, I'm like, well, that looks really good, and this is 1998, and they couldn't get the good CGI.
That's a very good point. You might be totally right about that. But regardless, the things that I like about this scene are, one, it's a pretty epic song, and it was done in a pretty epic way. They end up, the way that they get to the stage is they go around with those loop-de-loops of fire, and then they show up, and then they're already magically in their suits. And everybody in the band is wearing ZZ Top beards.
Oh, yeah.
What's with the hats and beards?
Schlein booked us in here as a bluegrass band.
Real quick, it is a puppet, and I'm seeing that it's on a website called Your Props, and I'm seeing if there's one available to purchase. God damn it, it doesn't look like it's already sold! God damn it! Anyway, at least we figured that out.
Who bought that, damn it all?
Who bought that puppet of the horse?
Okay, but the clouds were CGI, right?
No, they weren't. Have you ever seen the Chucky movies? When they use that same effect, that's like smoke in water. There's like a smoke in water effect.
You're
a
totally
lot of movies
right.
use that. Yeah.
Yes, I know exactly what
Again,
you're talking
Kaylee, this was mid to late 90s, a golden era of special effects where all the old effects were able to look better because of digital compositing.
Yes.
And then for whatever reason, probably George Lucas, after Phantom Menace, went, man, that was way too many miniatures. Let's just digital all the shit for the next two. And then Hollywood went, let's do what he's doing, and it ruined it all.
It's true.
Yeah.
Also, during this number, Buster busts out the harmonica. And so this is the first time that we really get to see him performing. So now this is why he's sort of a member of the band, because it turns out that magically this 10-year-old orphan who needs to be mentored by Elwood Blues is a blues genius. Magically.
And I mean, some of the joke could be that he's teaching him like all the wrong lessons. I mean, that's one of the reasons I love. It's one of the reasons I love Bad Santa or the movie Role Models, because it's like, oh, these guys should not be mentoring kids, but this movie doesn't go hard enough into that. It doesn't really make any comedy out of it. It's just like, LOL, the kid's there.
Yeah.
Okay.
The kid is there, and he's the best dancer, and he's the best harmonica player.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah, he's just the best at everything.
This 10-year-old rules, and I hate it.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know, like, not that he needed a character arc, like the other band members don't really have them, but it's just like, he's in all the advertisements. They keep focusing on him, so I figured him and John Goodman should have been so much bigger in this. And they're just distracting. Yeah.
So, still on the run, the Blues Brothers, they walk into a revival meeting, and you already mentioned we have the revival meeting in the original one. And in this one, we have Sam Moore and James Brown performing John the Revelator.
Mm-hmm. And then this is when Joe Morton turns into a blues brother. You can just magically transform into one.
He ascends to heaven, and then he joins the gang.
I'm okay. I'm with the band now.
It's great.
He had never heard like soulful singing before. He went his whole life without hearing it. Can you believe it?
Crazy. Yeah, very surprising. I do really enjoy, though. I think that the costuming in this movie makes so much sense, and we all are completely familiar with the iconic Blues Brothers costumes. And I like that we get a little bit of an explanation for that in this movie.
The way we look together now presents a uniform image of strength and organization.
You know, Elwood takes a moment to say, this is showing that we're uniform. And I think that that is special and important, and that is what people associate so heavily with these movies, these characters, with SNL, with everything Blues Brothers related. That is what is so iconic, and it is nice to get to see Cab, Joe Morton's character, in that outfit, even if it's a stupid way about how he gets there.
Which, by the way, going to a karaoke bar after Halloween dressed as a Blues Brother with Joey C was an experience. Everyone knew who we were. Which is weird, because at that same bar, I entered the Halloween costume contest as Bluto from Animal House. And literally the guy announcing the costume went, and we got, who are you again? And I went, motherfucker, you just sabotaged me. Fucking Barbie won. The store-bought Barbie costume won. I'm like, come on. But yeah, everyone, you're right. It's iconic. Everyone at that bar, they were like, holy shit, it's the Blue. And then we sang and we killed it. And they're like, holy shit.
So next we have what is my least favorite song. I think you and I might differ in opinions about this, but it is the zombie song. And I'm going to be honest with you before you say anything about this. I don't even know what song they were performing because I was so distracted by the absolute insanity of the fact that a 130-year-old voodoo witch played by Erykah Badu turns Elwood, Mac, and Cab into green teeth zombies.
Yes. So they go to this. Like,
I'm sorry. One more little addition to that. Interspliced with dancing cowboys.
Yes. Because they're in the South. They're in the South. They're in like Louisiana or whatever. They're on like a plantation where she like runs the stuff.
A gated plantation.
Which by the way, that house that she was in has to be in other movies. It looked very familiar.
Yeah,
it kind of looked like, I don't know if it is, it kind of looked like the house from the Texas Chainsaw remakes from like 2003. It looked like that house, but I'm not sure if it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, a 130-year-old voodoo woman has a battle of the bands on her plantation, and She asked them to sing something Caribbean, and he lists all the music that they sing.
We do blues, rhythm and blues, jazz, funk, soul. We can handle rock, pop, country, heavy metal, fusion,
including rap, apparently.
Hip-hop, rap, Motown, operetta, show tunes. In fact, we've even been called upon on occasion to do a polka.
But he will not do Caribbean. Part of me is just like, why?
Yeah.
Why would you?
What happened? Who hurt you? Who hurt you,
I mean,
buddy?
like, it'd be one thing if he's like, we only do the blues, because we've seen that, like, they have to improvise with country. They only ever know over, like, 1 or 2 songs.
Yeah.
But it's just like, oh, after that performance, did you guys wise up? And I'm like, well, you didn't. You were in prison for all those years. So it's like, when did you... when the fuck did when did you start singing all this other music? So yeah, she's like, well, I'll just turn you into zombies. Haitian voodoo zombies who do Frankenstein dances.
Okay.
I actually dig it's the catchiest song, I think, Funky Nassau. I'm digging just the song. I agree it's bizarre in the film. It actually is funny that the band all turns, they all have the white outfits, which is just another rehash, because in the first film, when they're buying time, Cab Calloway starts singing, and it turns out it's like, he's imagining in his head that everyone's all fancy with white outfits and whatnot, and they kind of just did that again here, but this time it's magic. I don't know. I dug the song, though. You didn't like the song?
I don't even remember the song because I was so distracted by everything that I was getting visually assaulted by.
Thank you.
Explain the green to me. Okay, is it makeup? Is the green makeup?
Well, no, I mean, yeah, the special effect is obviously makeup.
Okay, but I don't know that I agree with that because I swear to God their teeth are green also.
Yeah, they might have had like green dentures.
You don't think that that's a weird choice?
Hi, everyone. Tony from the future here. After we shot this, I went back and I watched the Funky Nassau scene to prove myself right. Obviously, that was just very bright green makeup, and Kaylee is stupid. Turns out I was wrong. Upon closer inspection, I noticed that right before they transform into the solid green look, we see a different shade of green on them that matches the color we see when they turn into statues. I guessed when it came to them walking around and dancing, it didn't look that good, so they decided to spice it up in post. I don't believe it was CGI. It seems to be hand done, and it must have been done quickly. If you slow down the footage, you can see when they're walking, it's barely, whatever the rotoscope effect they're using is barely keeping up with the actor. So this, I think, was all hand done, frame by frame, very, very quickly, to brighten up their green makeup. Also, the background, the sky, when they first transform, that's definitely a digital composite. You could tell by the antlers disappearing in this shot here. So yeah, don't really think it was CGI, but it was definitely a post-production visual effect and not makeup. I mean, it was kind of makeup, but you know what I mean. Kaylee wins. Kaylee is right. Is that what you want to hear? Is that what you want to hear? She was right and I was wrong. Back to the review.
I mean, all of this scene is, I guess, a weird choice.
Well, I don't know why Haitian zombies would be green.
Green.
I guess it's just to be a cartoony zombie. You're green. I don't look, man. He sold a lot of Ghostbusters merch with cartoony, colorful monsters. Maybe he knew what he was doing. I don't know.
I could not get over the scene. And again, the cowboys, yeah, so much of this. The cowboys don't make any sense to me. None of this scene, it was so distractingly horrible for me what I was looking at that I could not enjoy anything about it, which is unfortunate because, again, Erykah Badu is super talented and I'm sure she did a wonderful job. I know she sings part of the song. I couldn't tell you if I enjoyed it or not in any way, shape, or form because I was just so offended at what I was looking at.
I believe I was reading something. Oh yeah, Aykroyd is proud of the film. He said this last year in an interview.
No.
A Rolling Stone interview. The second movie is a small G good accompaniment to the first, and he specifies Erykah Badu's song was worth the price of admission. I'm glad we did that story, and I wish Jimmy Belushi had been in it, but everybody was good in it and it was fun. Well, he's wrong, but yeah, her song is fine. But if I had seen this in the theater, I would have been like, well, at least I got to see her sing that one song, made it worth it. I'd be like, no, I mean, that song's okay. I wish I didn't watch the rest of the movie.
So this song also ends in a really confusing way for me because she's like, okay, I like that. And you are officially in the battle of the bands. You guys win. But then she turns them to stone.
Elwood?
Woo! You may enter the contest tomorrow night.
Yes. And
Why?
puts
But
them,
why
like,
did?
she
why
puts them on ice until the show happens. I don't know. But can we talk about Paul Schaefer as Marco?
You must qualify.
Yeah, we can. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me your thoughts, Tony.
I thought he was great. I thought he was great.
I did too.
I thought he was great.
Yeah. He was actually probably one of the standout performances in the film, and I think that
he's performed with them. The one album that I was listening to, it was like a later one, like from like the 2000s, and he's like performing with them and singing with them.
No, he did a wonderful job. I thought his character was great, and again, his character it's an actual character. It's not just the same flat, here is this human sort of guy, and I liked that a lot.
Real quick, he's very just random in the film and eccentric, and if there's any gamers in the audience, he reminds me of Ramon Salazar from Resident Evil 4, just with a way crazier wig. I don't know. That's where my mind went to when I was watching it, because that's a very ridiculous character in that game. And he's kind of dressed all fancy, and Paul Schaefer comes out. I'm like, oh shit, I'm getting flashbacks to a stupid game. But yeah, here's one of the problems with the film. This battle of the bands. Yeah, everything is building up to the battle of the bands, and they want to win the battle of the bands, but it doesn't feel like there's any stakes really, right? It's just, okay, well, what happens if you don't win the battle of the bands?
Do you know what else is the problem with the battle of the bands, Tony?
What?
Okay, so when there's a battle of the bands, I would say that on average more than 2 bands perform at a battle of the bands, right? Because otherwise it's not really a battle of bands, it's just 2 bands performing. There's only 2 bands that perform in the battle of the bands, which makes even less sense because in the previous scene we just saw our voodoo witch Queen Musette giving them permission to perform in the Battle of the Bands.
Yeah.
What if she had not given them permission? Then it just would have been band playing.
Well,
the only band that would have played would have been the Louisiana Gators.
Well, I was going to say maybe they bend the rules a bit because there's 1,000 people in the Louisiana Gator Boys band. I have the whole list here. It is a very loaded band.
That is a stacked super group. We have Eric Clapton, B.B. King, Isaac Hayes, Bo Diddley, Lou Rawls, Jimmy Vaughn. So we have a Jimmy that is also an older brother of Stevie Ray Vaughan. See how it's almost a Jimmy and the Jimmy?
Yeah.
We have Clarence Clemens. We have Gary U.S. Bonds. We have Dr. John, Willie Weeks, Steve Winwood, and so many more. And that is the next song that we get to see in the movie is the Louisiana Gators performing, and they do an incredible job because it is a stacked band.
Yeah.
But it is also so long.
Yes. But, like, I just don't understand, like, what this is building to. Like, it makes sense in the first one. Like, they had to do the show to save the orphanage. They get money from, like, a label that they're going to use to give to the band and the orphanage, and they got to get to the place in time to give Steven Spielberg, of all people, the money to save the orphanage. But here it's like, we got to get to the Battle of the Bands and play in the Battle of the Bands and win the Battle of the Bands. Like, okay, did I miss something? What's at stake here if they lose?
You did not miss anything. At this point, I think that the only motivation in the film at this point is to keep Buster with Elwood. I think that effectively the only motivation is to keep the Blues Brothers together.
Yeah.
And you are exactly correct that winning or losing the Battle of the Bands will not impact that motive.
Yeah.
It makes no sense whatsoever. The plot line of 90% of this movie is meaningless. Now, that said, I would argue that the plot line of a bunch of the original movie is also meaningless. However, again, one, humor, and two, here, you could have made it better. Like, do the hat tips to the previous movie, but make it more interesting. You had 18 years to make it better.
Yeah, I mean, look, the first one, it is just like mostly little vignettes, but there is a story to keep you on track, something to build up to. And it leads to like one of the best like endings of a comedy where like it just goes off the rails. It's into like vehicular insanity and whatnot. And this one, you're right. I guess the whole thing is that this older man really wants to be with the young boy. And he uses the Battle of the Bands to get away and hang out with a young boy. It's kind of problematic when you think about it. Like, dude, I was
a little bit.
Dude, I had like whiplash when the movie ended. I was like, wait, that's the ending? And I'm like, oh, I thought something else was going to happen. Also, not enough car crashes. They do that one big car crash, which isn't as fun because it's just piling up. And I mean, it's funny, but like, compared to the first one where there's car accidents going everywhere, it's like, well, you just took one moment from that and tried to up just that one moment, and it just didn't do it for me.
So I do really like the car pile-up sequence, actually, in this movie, and we'll kind of jump back to that before we get into the final song of the movie. The car crash in this film is actually in the Guinness Book of World Records for being the biggest car pile-up in a movie. And the previous record holder was the original Blues Brothers, of course.
Yeah.
So I thought that it was around 40 cars when I was watching it. I think it's really closer. I think it's between 50 and 63. I can't remember. But it's all these like beautiful like Crown Vics that are just destroyed. And I know people now are like terrified watching these things. And it is a good car pile-up scene. But I agree with you. There's not nearly enough car stuff. Like for focusing on the Bluesmobile, I want it to be car-centric.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first one, they're like driving through a mall early on in the movie. They're doing all this stuff with the car. And even at the end, so the end of the first one, there is that part like under the bridge where there's the big pile up.
Yep.
But that was like sandwiched between like the highway pile up and cars going through the ground and cars being thrown all around into trucks and stuff. Here, they just do the pile up on like an empty road. It's not visually satisfying. If it was sandwiched between something else, maybe, but that was it.
And it's 2.5 minutes. It took them 4 months to film that 2.5 minute sequence. First of all, that's insane. Don't spend your budget on that. And second of all, the outcome of this huge pileup, which is mostly cop cars, is that everybody is fine. And I think that that's supposed to be the gag, is that obviously if there was actually a car pileup like this, not everybody would be fine. And at the end of it all, the cops kind of get out of their car and they're like, oh, everything's great. I'm totally doing wonderful.
I mean, look, that they do that in the first one. Carrie Fisher is blowing them up multiple times and they just dust themselves off. So I'm going to let that one slide.
No, but you shouldn't. You should not let that slide because it is funny in the first one.
Oh, yeah. I thought you meant like they should all be dead. I'm like, well, I don't know if we have to kill everyone.
No. If we are not going to kill people, if the gag is nobody dies when they should, then you need to lean into the comedy of that gag. And so I found it very offensive in this scene that took them 4 months to film. Garbage. Bunch of malarkey. I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it.
Not as funny. Not as
it's
funny.
not funny at all. So we do have to talk about the last song that we get to see performed in this movie, which is Elwood, Mac, and Buster. They get turned back from being stoned, and along with Cab, they perform Turn On Your Love Light by the Grateful Dead. And Elle and Buster do like a dueling harmonica in it, and Buster sings, and it's like emotional. I don't understand. Again, it was a great rendition of that song. I just I didn't need it.
I'm gonna be honest. Can't remember a goddamn thing from this song, and I just watched it like 2 days ago.
Yeah, I
can't remember anything from it.
There's a lot of things that happen in it. Let me tell you.
I'm looking at the next song on the list. I'm like, don't remember that song either.
Wait, there's a next song? That's what I have as my last song of the movie. What's the next song?
So, well, in the soundtrack, they have a song called New Orleans, and it's sung by the Louisiana Gator Boys and the Blues Brothers. Maybe that's one they used.
Oh,
for, like,
I think that they do that in the credits. Yeah, that's the one that they have in the credits. The end credits I actually enjoyed a lot. I thought that was one of the better parts of the movie. I like the idea that they are showing
us... Because it was over? You're like, oh, thank God.
It's not even over. It's not even goddamn over. Let's talk about how the end credits are not even over. But first, I will say the positive things, and then I will get into why I am very upset about the end credits. The end credits, it shows everybody's names over whoever appeared. And I think that that's great. For a movie that is giving nods to a lot of musical performers that haven't been famous since the 1960s, it is important to give all of those people credit. And that is what the end credits did in this movie. However, I got so goddamn pissed off because there is a post-credit scene where James Brown sings Please, Please Don't Go for 3 minutes. For 3 fucking minutes, Tony, and it will never end, and this movie will never end.
I didn't know that.
This movie will literally never end.
I didn't know that. Holy shit! I turned it off when the thing started. I didn't know that
there's a goddamn post-credit scene of this fucking movie.
What? Hold on. I'm
3
pulling
minutes.
up my copy
3
of
minutes.
the movie.
3
Let me
minutes.
pull up my copy of the movie here and skip to the end. Let me see if it's on the DVD. What the hell's... Holy shit, you're right!
Oh, I lost my fucking shit. I literally was like,
oh my God!
I was so angry. I was like, I finally made it to the end of this bullshit. Like, I finally did it. Yes, yes, yes. And then James Brown breaks out, and I was like, and then again, it's Please, Please Don't Go. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna go. Oh, I am going, and I am never coming back, assholes.
Here's what I'm thinking. This is like MTV VH1 generation. Did they want like all of these music stuff shot so they could chop it up and put it on those? And if they released that on VH1, where people be like, where was that in the movie? I don't know. So they're like, I'll just throw it at the end of the fucking movie. Why not just have the song playing while the credits play over it? Why would you just put it at the end of the movie?
Because the joke is that they're asking you not to go.
Please don't.
And it's a soul movie. And they don't want you to go. Don't go, Tony. Please, please don't go.
I want to go from this movie. I don't want to watch this movie.
And then I had to watch the whole song to see if anything funny was going to happen. So then I'm watching 3 minutes of this goddamn song, which, again, I love James Brown. I'm not at all trying to discredit how amazing the musical performers are that we get to see in this film. They're all wonderful. But I was so exhausted at that point in the film that I was like, I can't even listen to you and enjoy it in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. This one is exhausting. I'll never watch it again after this.
Agreed.
Agreed. But like I said, that being said, like I wasn't like full of rage watching it. I wasn't like betrayed. I was just kind of like,
I guess the only time that I really got rageful was that post-credit scene. That really, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. You have got to be goddamn kidding me.
Oh,
I was so annoyed.
What's the movie that broke me? It's a short movie too, Master of Disguise. That movie.
I like Master of Disguise.
Kaylee, shut the fuck up.
I'm going to be a master of disguise. I'm going to be...
Shut the fuck up. When's the last time you watched that movie?
I don't want to answer that question, but I like Dana Carvey, and I like that movie.
That is a movie that doesn't end. It just keeps going, and then there's a post-credit sequence. I'm like, please just turn the goddamn movie off. Just stop with this fucking movie. The movie's offensive to Italians, by the way.
Everything's offensive to Italians. Shut up. We have talked about some of the things that we've liked and disliked about this movie, but I do feel like we have missed a couple of scenes. So I want to go through a couple of the scenes that I really enjoyed. I would love it if you bring up some of the scenes that you enjoyed, and then we will move on to some of the stuff that we really hated that we haven't hit on yet. So one of the things that I really enjoyed was B.B. King as Melvin Gasperon, who is both in the Louisiana Gator Boys, and he is the car salesman who is selling Elle the new Bluesmobile for $500.
Yeah, he was fine.
I thought that he did a great job. I thought that he was the correct amount of funny. I thought that they gave him the correct amount of screen time. I thought that his character was unique and memorable, even though everybody else kind of just fades into each other, I guess.
Yeah.
So I did enjoy his performance quite a bit. And then a scene that I kind of meandered back and forth about is, I think, one of the more infamous scenes in this film that we haven't talked about at all, which is the puffball invasion scene.
Puffball. Why am I forgetting this?
You know why? Because this movie is freaking awful. So what happens in this scene? What happens in the scene? This is when the boys all need to create a diversion to elude the cops in the diner. And so...
Oh my God. No,
and-
you're right. This is the worst part. It makes no fucking sense. But yeah, keep going. Yeah. Sorry.
So what happens is Buster and Mac run out and they're screaming, "Oh my God, it's a crazy puffball invasion." And then Dan Aykroyd has a face full of whipped cream shaped like a ball on his head and he's spitting. And it's like cute enough. But I think that this scene is, even though I sort of enjoyed the scene, I got where it was going. I will say that I think it's the perfect example of why this movie was such a giant flop. Because it is clear that everybody is having fun when they're filming the scene. John Goodman is grabbing a sandwich, he's shoveling it in his face. But the scene still isn't laugh out loud funny. And I've been trying to put my finger on why the only comedy scene in the film, I would argue, is not actually a funny scene.
It's really not funny.
Yeah.
They're just screaming and like the trick wouldn't actually work. I'm thinking of like Belushi in the previous one, pretending that he's like part of some union, and he pulls out a cigarette pack and pretends it's a badge and puts it away real quick.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of that in order to get away from stuff. But here they're like, "Well, no, I'm turning into a weird alien disease man." The only funny thing really in that scene is at the very end of it, where the guy who owns the bar is the dude who owned the bar from the previous film. And he goes, "Don't I recognize you guys?" And they all cover their face.
Yeah, they're all like,
"Nope." That was
Yeah.
funnier than the puffball invasion shit, which again must have been so bad that my mind wanted it out of my brain.
I wrote notes for this movie and then I reorganized them and then I watched this movie again and then I reorganized my notes again and I still feel like I have forgotten half of the movie. And again, I watched it yesterday and today and I still don't know this movie. And that really goes to show the failures of this film.
Yes. I don't like that Dan Aykroyd was inside the Blues Mobile. Like his head comes out of the compartment. I'm like,
lots of heat here, Al. Maybe we ought to skip this gig and move on to the next one, huh?
That would be unprofessional.
But where is... I know it's supposed to be cartoony and I shouldn't think about it, but I'm like, but where is he? Where is his body? I don't understand where his body is inside.
I
don't get
need
it.
to understand the mechanics.
Yeah, I don't understand the mechanics.
So another thing that I both enjoyed and did not enjoy was the idea of getting around a cop barricade. So again, the cops are kind of blocking off all the roads so the Blues Brothers can't get there. And they decide that in order to get around the barricade, they are going to drive through the Ohio River. And I like that concept a lot. I think it was very poorly executed. We have them driving. There's like fish going by their faces. It's very, how long can we hold our breath? Or how long can we stay under here? Depends how long can you hold your breath. Those sorts of gags. But I thought it was a very cute little scene and it could have been really cool. It just wasn't.
I did like a little bit of the payoff where they come out and the boat's on top of it and they're like, "Our boat!" And they just look at it like, "What boat?" Because they have no idea they're hauling a boat. That part was fine.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, you're right. What you were talking about is more of the setup. I like the payoff where the militia are like, "Yeah, they're going to do this. They're spying on us." And then sure enough, a cop car comes out of the water. And they're like, "Oh, no, they must have found us." Yeah, they must have found us with their spy satellites.
Yeah. I do think that the militia is probably one of the funnier parts of the film.
And again, they should have been in the movie more than the Russians.
Yeah, the Russians were nothing. Nothing.
Yeah.
No, absolutely nothing.
I just don't like the movie has no ending. That's my least favorite part. It just doesn't have an ending.
I know. It's so rough. It's so rough. I would say that that's one of the things that I really hate the most, which is just that, okay, so then we end up driving off. So it's just like Elle and Buster driving off into the proverbial sunset.
Yeah.
Cool.
Remember when they all got arrested, even though they were going to be rich and famous, they all got arrested and they're singing in jail. That was funny.
Yeah.
If you're ripping off everything from the first one, why not just do that again? Instead, it's like, nope,
great.
he's going to drive away with a young boy. Like, I don't like that. I don't like the implications of this.
No, it's again, it's just very weird. Okay, so did you have any scenes that you can think of? Because again, we can both agree it's hard to remember things. Did you have any scenes that you really enjoyed that we haven't already talked about?
Honestly, I think I might have said everything I liked and didn't like in it.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie is so non-memorable. I can't recall anything. Like, I'm really trying right now to really think of something, and I can't think of anything.
Well, in that case, I will move on to some of the stuff that I hated that we haven't already touched on. Now, we've already talked about a lot of the things that I did not like, including the plot. I would have much preferred them to do another plot where they're trying to save the orphanage as opposed to doing this more kid-friendly, surrealist, insanity sort of stuff that has ended up happening with the film. We've already talked about kind of like the cuts being weird and us not getting to see a lot of the singing or dancing because there's just a bunch of cuts within the film and maybe everybody not being great either be horrible dancers and lean into that or be great dancers and lean into that, and this movie does a little bit of neither of both of it's just
but again with the multiple cuts, I think they were tailor making this to be split up for music videos. I think
I do think that you're right about that. Although here's a counter argument that I will say about that. There was an editing thing that I thought was interesting that was completely non-music video related. So this would not have been for a cut for a music video. There's a point where Elle does a crazy long monologue.
You gotta understand. Those goons are orphan remnants of the post-perestroika Soviet secret police apparatus, which until 1991 carried out its twisted interpretation of the original well-intentioned Marxist-Leninist.
He's telling Willie that the Russians won't be a problem anymore, and it's like this super-duper long monologue.
Doctrine vis-a-vis state security, which was massively corrupted by Lavrenta Beria in the 30s. Of course, once a mass populace is coerced into such behavior...
But for half of the monologue, the camera isn't on him, it's on other people.
As a permanent condition, a radical didactic dialectic shift, such as Glasnost, produces guys like these. Stunned headless automata whose only alternative in their new lives is the continuation of brutish measures to which their genetic code has been programmed since the fall of the Romanovs.
It's great.
And I was like, oh, he couldn't remember his lines. Like, that's the reason that you do those cuts. That's the reason that you
or
change
they
the camera
came up
angle.
with it later on and they ADR'd it.
Yeah. And I was like, I felt like maybe just people didn't give their all about this movie. Again, I think that some of the charm of the original is that everybody seems to be having fun the entire time. Everybody is enjoying themselves. And I did not get that at all in 2000. I just... And of course, we have also talked about this a little bit, but the jokes are just awful.
They have guns and we have carpet tags.
They're not carpet tags, they're drywall nails.
I don't even know if I can call them jokes.
They're not even really jokes. They're just like amusing things that happen.
Sure.
I think a big missed opportunity is like they have Elwood get picked up by the stripper and then she's at the strip club later. So it makes you think like she's going to be like an important character. Never see her
Not
again.
at all.
And I'm like, wait, why wouldn't you have... That would have been a good place to introduce John Goodman and get him in the movie earlier, right?
I completely agree. Not only that, I think... So one of the jokes that I remember in this movie is related to her, actually. When Elwood first goes to the strip club, he sees her and he doesn't recognize her.
It's me!
And he goes... And she goes, oh, don't you recognize me, Elwood? I'm the girl who picked you up earlier. And she takes her wig off.
Matara?
Oh, yeah, right.
Revealing almost the exact same hair.
Okay,
her wig.
That I actually liked. I like stupid shit like that. I think that's funny.
The joke is that he doesn't recognize her unless she has braids. That's the joke. That
Yeah, that's funny.
All right,
You
we
realize
finally
you realize I've done that same joke on my show where someone is in disguise and I can't tell, and it's like the worst. Joey C's got me twice with that.
Tony, I mean this with so much respect, but the production value of your show is not $30 million, which is what the production value of this movie was. And I adore you.
Thank
But
you.
I just don't. I mean, there is like a level of writing that goes into a budget like that where I expect maybe just a little. I'm not saying that it's a horrible joke. I'm just saying that it's nothing. If that's the funniest gag in this movie, there is a problem with.
Yeah,
the
no, I
movie.
agree. That shouldn't be one of my favorite moments in a movie.
I am happy though. I'm glad that I brought it up because we did finally find something that you
We
like
found one.
about
I
this
like-
movie. We succeeded, so I'm very
Again,
happy about
I did a
that.
bonus episode of my show where Joey C wears a Santa hat, and I think he's really Santa, even though he's wearing no other Santa stuff. So that kind of humor, I'm like, nah, I'm on board with that one. Bad disguises crack me up. I don't know why. I love bad disguises.
I respect you, but all right, so with all of those things being said, I do think that we need to give this movie some ratings. So on my channel, I like to rate things out of 7 thumbs up. So I know this is a challenging one because on the one hand, it's effectively the same movie as the first movie, just without Belushi. On the other hand, it's effectively the exact same movie as the first one, but without Belushi and with no jokes. So what out of 7 thumbs would you give this movie?
All right,
Yeah.
I'm thinking real hard.
I know.
Okay. So I liked 2 of the songs.
Okay,
I liked
okay.
2 of the songs.
Yeah.
I mean, it was shot well enough. It didn't look cheap, really.
Yep.
We're giving it 3 thumbs.
Wow.
3 thumbs. There you go.
Okay. All right. So you had a reasonable time watching this movie.
I guess. I mean, I did text you a picture of the movie with the word sigh, so I don't know if I had a reasonable time. But I'm like, all right, well, there's a couple things that didn't make me want to, like, throw the disc out of the player. So at least we got that. At least we got that.
So I think that I would give the soundtrack 7 thumbs up. I loved the soundtrack.
It's a good one.
I think that all the songs are wonderful. I think that they're beautifully performed. I thought that it was great. I think some of the musical numbers are well done in the film. I think some of them are not so well done in the film. But as for the movie, I think that I would give this 1 thumb up, which might be one of my lowest ratings ever. I really disliked this movie in so many ways.
1 thumbs up? Let me look at some of the movies you've done. I don't know if this is the one that deserves a 1 thumbs up, Kaylee.
Let's not talk about my ratings for the other SNL skits turned into movies. You can't figure that out fast enough. You can't figure it out fast enough because you have to watch the reviews. Ha 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 ha. You don't know what I rated. It's Pat. You don't know what I rated. Coneheads.
I
You don't know
watch
what
those
I rated.
reviews. I don't memorize your ratings. Oh, come on. This is probably a little bit better than Superstar, right? It's probably a little bit better.
I would rate this lower than Superstar.
You know, I haven't watched Superstar. I watched your review, but I haven't fully watched Superstar in a long time.
had less fun. This was a drudge for me. I felt the length of this movie. I felt the non-comedy of this movie. I had a lot of similar experiences to what you had, which is I watched it and then I immediately forgot every single thing that happened.
It's hard. It's hard to remember this movie, and I've come into this recently. I also, for Patreon, we did Lawnmower Man 2.
Oh, boy.
And it was really hard for me. And we had watched it multiple times leading up to it because that movie has a weird effect where you forget you're watching it as you watch it.
Yeah.
And this is the Blues Brothers 2000 is one of those now where I'm like, I just watched it. I have no memory of it. I can remember movies I've seen once 3 years ago perfectly, and I cannot remember a single frame of this movie that I just watched.
Well, again, it's so crazy because it blends so much into the first one. You know, I actually had to remind myself, does Aretha Franklin sing Respect in the first one? Like, because yeah, exactly. And I know that, but the movies blend so much into each other that it's near impossible to delineate them. And this one is so much less funny that there's no reason to think about it ever again. So I mean, yes, there were moments that I liked. There were, but I overall really, really hated this one. And in fact, right now I have a very chirpy kitten who is also screaming about how horrible this movie is.
Real quick. I just remembered something. Yes. The Blues Brothers 2000 name, it did work out because a Nintendo 64 game for this film came out in 2000.
Shut the fuck up. What was the point of the game?
So long after the movie had already came out and no one cared, at least the title made more sense. I don't know what the point. I've never actually played it. It was released 2 years after the film of the same name, but in the year the film was set, the game player... yeah, I guess you just go through the plot of the film, and it looks very cartoony. Buster's in it. I might have to do it just like the movie episode on this game.
Oh my good God, do not do that. But I will also watch it.
I need to know if this game... Oh my God, hold on. I'm looking at the cover of the game, right? It has the Addams Family Mansion. John Goodman is there. Buster's on there. There's a skeleton. There's a big piranha plant. And in a haunted tree? You don't want to play this game?
I mean, I don't, but what the fuck is basically what I want to say right now. That's crazy. I hope that you play it.
I'll either play it or I'll look up some game footage and do a review of it. You can fight a giant in it? All of this happened in the movie, I assume. Oh my God, Kaylee, you can dance with the black cowboys. In the thing, there's a dancing segment. This looks great. This game looks great.
I hate that. Do not dance with those cowboys. Not for you, Tony. Not for you.
I'm sorry. Okay, I won't dance with the cowboys.
I really truly hated this. I have not yet watched all the SNL skits turned into movies. Yeah. But I am going to tell you right now, this might be my least favorite. I don't imagine getting worse than this one. And again, I agree. Oh God, my cat is walking on a computer right now. We might have just lost. Did I lose you? No, you're still there. Okay.
No, I'm still there.
I will agree. Obviously, the production values are completely reasonable, and it is overall a good movie, but that makes me judge it harsher. I would almost prefer it to be a little bit shittier and worse production values, and then I could maybe forgive some of the jokes not landing.
Yeah.
I can't. It drives me insane. It's driving me absolutely insane.
Yeah. I feel embarrassed that I have the 2-pack.
You should feel embarrassed by that. I'm embarrassed to be friends with you for owning the 2-pack.
I bought it for this episode.
Yeah. Well, do you have any final thoughts on the movie, or are we so well done talking about this one?
If you think some of this movie sounds interesting, just watch the original, or better yet, watch my review of the original.
Absolutely.
There you go.
And where can people find that?
Over on Hack the Movies on YouTube, which review movies new and old. Also, check out Hack the Movies Clips and Streams. That's where I clip, when we do our monthly wrap-ups, I clip the individual reviews, put it there. I do a lot of live streaming there. I also co-stream on Facebook and Twitch and Instagram sometimes. Patreon, we got a lot of stuff on Patreon, which, by the way, I got to ask you to do a Patreon video with me. Yeah, I'm going harder on... I got invited to one Patreon event, and I accidentally stuck a friend in, and now I have all this Patreon knowledge. I got to go harder on Patreon.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, so I got a lot of stuff on there. And also to keep an eye on there, because now you can just, like, buy stuff without having to pledge, which is fun. And, yeah, I'm on Cameo as Tony Peluso on Cameo, and I got a merch store. I got all that fun stuff. I'm everywhere. You can't not find me. I'm always around. I've somehow made my way onto every single thing.
And I will have links for Tony down below. And if you have not already, you should absolutely go check out his review of the original Blues Brothers. Very fun stuff and tons of other great stuff over on his channel. So thank you so much again, Tony, for joining. And thank you guys for watching. And I can't wait for the next one. Bye.